Again, welcome everyone. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about atmospheric sciences or meteorology at Stony Brook for those, obviously you're interested in this major. Um, Regardless of what program you go to, it might be called atmospheric sciences or it might be called meteorology, which is just the initial confusing part of this major. They mean essentially identical things. So it doesn't really matter if you go to a program that has atmospheric sciences or if it's meteorology. They are the same thing. So I just want to tell you a little bit about why I think atmospheric sciences at Stony Brook is a really great choice. And it starts with that Stony Brook University as a whole is a really good choice. Many of you are from New York, but some of you are from farther away. We're halfway out about on Long Island. It is a beautiful place to live. It's a very nice campus, and you have access to a lot of things that are really cool. Um, and so you have Long Island Sound. So we're not very far. We're about 5, 7 minute drive to the water on the North Shore, a little bit farther on the South Shore, maybe 20, 25 minutes. There's also, I probably don't have to tell you, there's New York City. So we have connections. There's a Long Island Railroad station right on Stony Brook's campus. So you can get to Manhattan in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it's one of my, I grew up in Southern Connecticut, so I'm used to having access to New York City, but I'm spoiled. So it's amazing to be able to go to New York City any day you want. And then, not have to live there because it'll be a little bit too crazy for me to live there, but it's awesome to be able to go there at any point. And then I think less understood about Long Island maybe is what's east of here. So the North and South Fork of Long Island, it's very open country. There's vineyards and farms and really a lot of fun things to do. So the cool thing I think about Stony Brook is whatever type of life you like, whether it's more suburban where the university is, where it's New York City to our west, or it's more much less densely populated out east with the farms and the vineyards. Whatever kind of um, extracurriculars that you'd want to be interested in, you have access to, and that makes it awesome. So, but let's talk about school, and not just where the university is located. We have a really great program. And I think a key for atmospheric science that I try to emphasize is there's a few different routes that one can go within having an atmospheric science or meteorology degree. And they're actually pretty different routes that you can go. So I think it's what I try to emphasize to students is that our program is designed such that in any direction you want to go in, you're going to be well prepared. So that includes, the common um, jobs that people have are a forecaster. That could be a forecaster for the National Weather Service, or that could be a forecaster on TV. Or you can go into research like I did. I was always very interested in severe storms, so I wanted to research severe storms and tornadoes, and then ended up in academia. There's also, you can be a forecaster in the private sector. A lot of different companies need folks that understand the weather, whether it be for seasonal forecasting of their crops or what have you. The main point here is the facilities that we have and the faculty that we have are supportive of whatever direction that you want to go in. So we have a little over a dozen faculty, and we each have our own expertise. We also have a program that's really geared towards our undergraduates. It's a great size. There's about 50 undergraduates total, which means that you really get to know your fellow majors, and I love it. So what I love about it is that I know every single majors by the time they're a junior. I know every single one of their names, and I have an open door policy, so I keep my door open. They just come in and chat with me, and it's great. It's not overwhelming. There's not hundreds and hundreds of students that get lost. You get the personal attention that you need, and so one of the ways that we build camaraderie amongst the undergraduates is the meteorology club. And so, Cole, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can start talking. As Michael had kind of said, there is very much that close-knitness. You will uh, be able to talk about people who are also interested in weather, who might have the same interest as you, might open you up to a new interest. We meet mostly in Wednesdays afternoons. Usually we're in the Endeavor building, in the SoMAS College area. We have multiple social medias account for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we post weekly forecast of kind of like if you've ever looked at a weather app, the kind of like forecast that they do, we tend to post that with data gathered at Stony Brook. Uh, We also attend multiple different conferences that allow for networking for undergrads. They're really nice. You get to meet a lot of people. Uh, First one we'll kind of talk about is the Northeastern Storm Conference. It's in Vermont. That's where it's hosted. It is one of the big kind of conferences we go to. Again, great networking opportunities. You meet a lot of people who are, professionals in their field or do research. So you get to talk to a lot of people, and they can and also give presentations about their research and findings. The other conference we go to is AMS, or the American Meteorology
Society, yeah.
Society. It is similar to the Northeastern conference, but it is much bigger. It's on a national scale, so you meet people from all across the country. Whenever I've talked to someone who's gone, they've always enjoyed it. They always say how much that they really liked how you get to meet people. You really get to know the people who you go with. So, your fellow meteorology club members, you get to, spend time with them, talk about weather. It's just all in all good experiences to have.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, yeah, so people do their research in meteorology. So if you go in the research direction, conferences is the main way that people present their research. And so conferences are either kind of regional or national. And so there's a regional conference every year, the Northeastern Storm Conference. Um, and that's a different location every year, but anywhere from Saratoga to Albany to Burlington. So in 2026, we'll be in Burlington. But a great thing about the club is that they get a budget from the university and it's pretty big. And so they're able to subsidize, they're able to pay for a lot of the undergrads to go to these conferences. And they're really great networking opportunities. So you meet people in the field, you meet people that are forecasters, you meet people that are doing research. So whatever you might be interested in, you can start to meet people that are other meteorologists, and that's really important when it comes to eventually entering the job market. So the Northeastern Storms Conference is in March. Then there's the national conferences, and that's the main meteorology nonprofit organization is the American Meteorological Society. They run conferences. They run a conference every year for students, and that's in January. And so uh, last year it was in New Orleans, and this year it's going to be in 2026. It's going to be in Houston, and the club has enough money to even go for that. So they have a budget of many thousands of dollars, so to able to help offset the costs. And it's a great experience for the students. So that's really organized by the club. Um, so I mentioned one of the job parts I mentioned was broadcast meteorology, and that's very different from being a forecaster, for example, for the Weather Service, because there's two aspects of it, right? You still got to do the forecasting, you got to be a good forecaster of the weather, but you also have to be comfortable on TV, and that's really sometimes the harder part. And so we have a great relationship at Stony Brook with our own School of Communication and Journalism, where our meteorology students, if they want, get an opportunity to practice with the dreaded green screen which is what you stand in front of when you watch your local meteorologist. That's what the meteorologist is standing in front of, just a blank green screen. And you get experience working with that. And you can make your own reel, which then you can send off to TV stations when you enter the job market. So, for example, the bottom left here, this is Skylar Day Harmon, and she's a recent graduate of our program, and she is already on the air locally. So she's been on, for example, News 12. And so, giving students that opportunity is uh, really important and kind of gives students a heads up when they enter the job market. If you're interested in research, I mentioned our faculty. I study severe storms and tornadoes, but we have faculty here that study basically anything that you might be interested in. That includes winter storms, especially given where we are regionally. Those are very important. We have folks here who study hurricanes, tropical cyclones, climate change, um, mid-latitude cyclones, radar, air pollution, atmospheric chemistry, anything that modeling, anything you might be interested in. We have someone there someone in our program who studies it, and that might be important if you want to go into research. Right? And the reason for that is you might want to try your hand at undergraduate research. So, for example, I have a senior right now doing research for me because she's interested in severe storms. And so she's doing some severe storm research for me for this semester. So we try to give students an opportunity to do undergraduate research because it gives them a leg up when they're applying to graduate school. So if you go into research, typically you need a master's degree at least, or sometimes a PhD to enter uh, the market as a researcher. Private sector, we also have internships. And this is another area where proximity to New York City is advantageous. Obviously, there's a lot of private companies there. In addition, we have our major New York City news stations. And so we've had students, I think this past summer, we had a student intern at WNBC in New York City uh, doing broadcast meteorology. So not only do you have an opportunity to practice your broadcast meteorology skills on campus, we're located at we're in a location where students can access a lot of internships over the summer. So here, I just threw this on here because I couldn't resist. This is some of the research I do, severe storms and tornadoes. These are just radar data of tornadoes that I collected some years ago. So this kind of shows what I do. Radars on trucks, and you try and collect data of tornadoes. The point being, regardless of what you're interested in, if you're interested in trying your hand at research, there's probably somebody in our department that does that type of work. So about 15% of our students go into the National Weather Service. All right, so that's the government sector. So working for NOAA, being a forecaster. Our local National Weather Service office is right here on Long Island. They call it the New York City office, but it's really in Upton, New York. And we have students intern there every summer and all the time. So we have a good relationship with them. I mentioned the private sector, all the companies that are located either on Long Island or in New York City. And then about a quarter of our students go into graduate school. Again, the point being, whatever you go into, I think our program sets you up nicely to succeed. And last but not least, we have some newer but really exciting news, which is you can not only, our program used to be you can get a Bachelor of Science degree in atmospheric sciences. Now there is also the option to get a Bachelor of Science degree in climate sciences. And that just started, I believe, a year ago. And we already have students majoring in climate science. And a lot of programs don't have that option. So it's designed for students to become climate professionals. Same idea. That could be in research, but many other areas, right? Climate is affecting so much of our world today. So our program, it's a science program. So you get the basics of atmosphere, ocean, that drive our climate. You get skills working with large data sets, which is what you normally find in climate. But you also learn about the impacts of climate. Its focus, where we are, we're in the coastal area, and climate impacts on coastal environments is its own beast. So our program also emphasizes that and ways to mitigate and, if not, adapt to the realities of climate change. In addition, Stony Brook is the anchor institution for the New York Climate Exchange. So, we're hopeful that there'll be and so that's going to be on Governor's Island, off of just off the coast of Manhattan, and that's being built now. And so we're hoping to have opportunities in the future for students to do internships and things like that with the climate exchange. So that's it for my presentation. So I can stop sharing that. And wanted to leave you all with more than enough time to ask any questions for myself or Cole if you have them.
Yeah, we also have some pre-submitted questions, so we can get started with the first question in the Q&A, and then as we discuss the answers to the questions, if you have a follow-up question, feel free to add that to the Q&A as well. The first question is, how competitive are internships? And
Yeah,
that
so
ties
I would,
into one of
yeah,
the pre-submitted questions, which was of the 50 or of your undergraduate students, how many lean toward internships versus research, or are they doing both?
yeah. So first off, I would say I always compare things to when I was in school, which is I graduated undergrad in 2003. And I look back at every single sector, whether it's forecasting or research, um, and everything seems to be a little bit more competitive than it used to be. I mean, that's the reality. There's more people, and for the most part, the number of universities hasn't really changed, and now there's just more students. So I would say internships are competitive, but not to the point of um, there's no hope. That's not it. We have a great success record of students doing internships in the summer and or doing what are called REUs, which is research experience for undergraduates. A lot of universities have research programs in the summer, and they're paid for. You just get a stipend. You go to another institution and you do undergraduate research for anywhere from 1 week to 6 weeks, depending on how big the program is. And we have students do that all the time. So I would say most students are, yeah, in let's say we have a graduating class of 12 students. There's usually maybe two or three that are going off to graduate school, and the rest, many of them are looking to be forecasters. And where they forecast really varies. Some want to get into the weather service because the government job is uh, typically has job security. So those are very popular jobs and also very competitive. But as I mentioned, there's many private companies that are also looking for forecasters. So yeah, we have a pretty good track record of giving our students the opportunity to succeed. And then there's students who get an atmospheric science degree and sometimes don't go into a related field like environmental science. We've had graduates do that and be very successful because an atmospheric science degree is pretty rigorous. And so employers like it because they know that you know your math, you know your physics. And so people will go into other fields as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the kind of introductory courses that and why they're so important in the foundation, building that foundation before getting into the real
Yeah,
kind of desirable courses that everyone wants to take?
right. Yeah. And so so what I'm going to say is true for any atmospheric science program that you would go to, including at Stony Brook. And Cole might remember this because Cole's currently in my introduction to atmospheric science class. I gave them a little pep talk at one point to remind them that meteorologists sometimes are the butt of a lot of jokes and the like. And then they get to school and they realize how much they have to learn to be a meteorologist. And what I tell the students is you have to remember what meteorology is we're taking physics and we're applying it to the atmosphere. So it's called meteorology. What it really is, it's applied physics. And that makes it sound a lot nerdier, but it's also true. You're training to become an applied physicist. You're taking physics and you're applying it to the atmosphere. And so that means that for any atmospheric science program, it's like any atmospheric science program around the country, you need several semesters, usually 3 to 4 semesters of calculus, and typically 2 semesters of physics. Those are typically done in your first 2 years. In addition, Stony Brook as a whole has its own requirements. So a lot of your curriculum for atmospheric science really starts usually in your second year. Like I teach Introduction to Atmospheric Science. I'm teaching it now, and those are the majors are mostly sophomores. So yeah, there's important foundational building blocks in atmospheric science, and it's calculus and physics. Um, Now, if you want to major in meteorology and that scares you a little bit, you're not majoring in calculus. You're not majoring in physics. It's more that you have to have a basic understanding of calculus and physics to be able to take your upper division meteorology classes. So you have to be the world's greatest expert in calculus. I wasn't. I didn't always do awesome in physics as an undergraduate. But I survived, and that allowed me to do what I really like was meteorology. And so that's the reality of a meteorology major.
And we have a question about graduate programs in atmospheric science. I guess both if what it looks like at Stony Brook, but also where students go if they leave Stony Brook to go into a master's or PhD program.
Yeah. So both parts of that question. So we do have a graduate program here. We have, I don't know, 20 or so graduate students on the atmospheric science side. So for example, I currently have a PhD student, Eric, who's doing research for me. So I would say out of our dozen or so faculty, virtually every single one has some type of graduate student doing research for them. So we do offer a master's and a PhD program. Sometimes, and we have had Stony Brook undergraduates graduate and then go on to graduate school at Stony Brook. We've also had students go on to other universities and be very successful. This past year, I know we had one student go to the University of Washington. We've had students go, we just had a student finish her PhD at Penn State after she got her bachelor's degree at Stony Brook. And now she's going into academia. So we do offer a graduate program. So if you're looking far down the road, yes. But yeah, I think if you come to our university as an undergraduate, we want to make sure that you're doing well enough academically to go to any graduate program, not just our own. Because just admissions to graduate school is also dependent on who has funding. And so, in any given year, that means sometimes whoever's doing what you're interested in at Stony Brook may or may not have funding, and you might go elsewhere.
The next question is, what does your workplace look like? And have you ever had the opportunity to work in the field? So I'm not, I guess this is for you, Michael, or maybe Cole, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, so I can start off. It's a great place to work, as I mentioned before. The nice part about, and I say this a lot, but a nice part about meteorology is nobody goes into meteorology just to have a job, right? It's typically something that people are very interested in and passionate about. So it's nice to work in a field where kind of everyone thinks what they're doing is pretty cool, right? And you can't really say that for all, probably for all jobs. So that I think in and of itself makes it a cool place to be. I'm also, one of the reasons that I'm at a university instead of at, say, like a research lab is I like teaching. I like being around the students. Like I said, I have an open door policy. I talk to students every day. And that to me is really fun. It's a really cool experience. I have worked in the field a lot. So especially when I was in Oklahoma, we would take radars mounted on trucks and we would try and collect data. Essentially, we were storm chasing but for research. Collecting data of supercells and tornadoes. I've continued that work since my time here. I was part of a field project in the Southeast, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Louisiana. where we took radars mounted on trucks and tried to collect data of tornadoes in the Southeast. That was 2021 to 2023. So I've been lucky to be able to work in the field. That brings me to an important point that I didn't really emphasize too much, which is we've had field projects. For example, a couple of years ago, we had a field project designed to study snowstorms in the Northeast. And so the undergraduates were a big part of that. They helped us collect data. So they were launching, and I was helping as well, launch weather balloons in the middle of blizzards. It's quite the experience. It's quite the experience. But the students had a great time. It's an awesome opportunity. This past year, another professor that we have here who does air pollution studies had a project called Gotham, um, looking at more of the kind of air chemistry part of the research, atmospheric science research spectrum. So there's usually some type of research project going on, and a lot of times we're looking for undergraduates to help us help collect data, and that's a great experience. And so that's something that I didn't really emphasize before.
The next question is, have students who major in atmospheric science gone on to a military pathway?
Yeah, this is a great question. Yes. Um, as you might imagine, military also needs forecasters for a variety of reasons. I mean, just think of, so I have somebody I went to school with as an undergraduate who went into the Air Force, right? For obvious reasons, the Air Force needs meteorologists. So military path is definitely an option, and something that they're always looking for, and not just Air Force. I suspect all the branches of the military are looking um, for for typically forecasters, people who can help them forecast for obvious military reasons.
Uh, Cole, can you talk a little bit about when you went, where you went to high school, how you decided to apply to Stony Brook, and also where you kind of started getting your interest in the major? Because it looks like you started here, right? Your first year in the major.
Yeah, so uh I went to a high school here on Long Island. There wasn't really many atmospheric classes in it. I had first gone and looking at Stony Brook because I liked astronomy, and that was something I liked to do, which I ended up looking at the weather program, and I also like weather. I like severe storms. I like kind of the changes in weather and how it's just how complicated it is. So I wanted to pursue that more than astronomy, and uh kind of through my freshman year of basic level courses, and just a little bit of research on my part, I came to realizing that I can like and can do both as a double major, which ended up for me taking both of those. So it was mostly a interest on my part of why I kind of chose the path I did.
That's great. Another question geared more towards meteorology club, and if you have to be a major, or if you can join if you're not a major, if there are any restrictions to joining in the club. And a separate question, but kind of on the same lines, are most of the students at Stony Brook from Long Island?
Okay, so I'll answer the meteorology major. You don't have to apply. It is open to anyone who's interested in weather. It's not just the majors. So if you end up choosing you don't want to, but still want to experience the club, you are open to join the club. And then I would not say most students at Stony Brook are from Long Island. We do have a very diverse net. We have people not just from Long Island, but the entirety of the state of New York. We have people from other states. We have abroad students. So there is a lot of students who are not local.
Yeah, and so just to piggyback on that, meteorology is something that a lot of people are a lot of people are interested in the weather. So I think that the meteorology club, probably more so than other clubs, actually does have I think a number of students that are not majors. They just think the weather is cool and they join the club. And so it's just kind of a club that has good vibes. And so yeah, there's every year there's students joining that art majors.
And what are some of the minors that either a student who's not an atmospheric science major but is interested in the weather, or who wants to add a minor in another area, what might be popular for an atmospheric science major if we're going to choose a minor?
Yeah, so what some students do, especially if they want to go the graduate school route, is they're taking a decent amount of math to begin with, 3 to 4 semesters of calculus, statistics. Um, so some of them will just add a math minor because I think it's an additional, I don't know the numbers offhand, but it's like an additional couple of classes, right? They need X number of classes to get math classes to get a degree in atmospheric science in the first place. So why don't I add a few more and have a math minor? Because that would look good to graduate schools. So that one's pretty common. Um, yeah, Cole mentioned that he's double majoring. I've seen an increase in that recently, actually. We have students that will, so to give you a good example, we have a student who's double majoring in atmospheric science and something business related. I can't exactly remember what it is because they're very interested in things like commodity trading. And, companies value people who have different skill sets and will hire, so for example, take an energy company. An energy company is going to be very interested in what short-term, medium range, and long-term seasonal forecasting looks like. What's the demand going to be for my heating oil or my natural gas or what have you? The more you think about every aspect of the economy, weather and climate affects it. And so this makes meteorology an attractive um, option for employers, including in sectors that you wouldn't think of. So students oftentimes, if they know the direction they want to go in, they can add a minor, depending on what's available for minors, or a double major that they think will allow them to be more attractive to employers. If they want to go into, say, forecasting or something outside of graduate school.
And do atmospheric science majors ever study abroad? Not
Okay.
necessarily specifically
Yeah.
for atmospheric science, but just in
Yeah.
general.
So the degree, so the deal, I kind of referred to this earlier. Atmospheric science is pretty rigorous. There's in terms of you need the calculus and physics, and then satisfy other university requirements. So it can be done. We would definitely encourage that, or yeah, strongly encourage that to be done in the first 2 years. Because remember, those first 2 years are the years where you're kind of setting the foundation. And then junior and senior year, you're really kind of inundating yourself with meteorology classes. And so you'd probably want to be here at Stony Brook for that. But yeah, during those foundational years, if you can find a program that allows you to take math and physics, and I don't think that's too hard because those are classes that should be available at most universities, domestic and international. So yes, but it works best if you have it planned out to do in your first 2 years.
And there are some short-term study abroad programs like during summer session. So those might be popular options too. Stony Brook actually has programs in really every continent except Antarctica right now. So you can definitely find something at some time, short term, long term. If you're interested in studying abroad, there's usually a way to fit that in for really any major at Stony Brook. This is a question for Cole. Because you're double majoring, how busy are you? And do you have any free time? This is a great question.
It is a great question. I will say, for astronomy specifically as a double major, it is not necessarily that busy. A lot of the core classes, like your physics, your calculus for atmospheric science, are classes I would have to take anyway for astronomy. So personally, for me, I am not necessarily that busy. For atmospheric science major in general, I would say there is definitely time if you're able to plan it out for you to pick up a minor. Uh, it's just a lot about planning. If you're able to plan out your schedule and what kind of classes or what major minor you want to have with the class, then it's going to be fairly fine. You should have free time to do like other clubs you might want to do or hang out with friends that you might have. So
Yeah, and I would just something I emphasize I, to Cole's class, the Introduction to Atmospheric Science class I'm teaching, is the importance of time management. And I tell the students all the time to let them know, like, I'm still trying to be the best I can at time management. It's hard. Key part of college, I think, regardless of what university you go to or what you major in, is time management and kind of planning out, not trying to minimize procrastinating and all of that. So for example, I give my students, when I give them homework assignments, I give them 2 weeks to do it. And part of that is, hey, learn your time management. You can have this done 2 days, and then you don't have to worry about anything for 12 days or 10 days. So time management is a really key aspect of that. Even if you're double majoring, if you plan things out, you can have time to really enjoy the college experience.
Yeah, and your schedule in college is a little different than a typical high school schedule. So you might have, classes, 3 times a week or twice a week, but a lot of that free time you devote to studying, but also joining clubs and organizations. And many students work jobs on campus. So there are all kinds of things you can do to fill your time. Um, we have a question about the Simon STEM Scholars Program and atmospheric science majors, but just as a kind of summary, the Simon STEM Scholars Program is a honors program at Stony Brook that does provide full financial support for its students, along with research stipends. And they look to enroll about 50 students a year, and they'll be going into their 4th year. So it's a relatively new program. Michael, do you know if any, I don't offhand know if there are any atmospheric science majors. I know there's some students within the School of Marine and Atmospheric Science in Simon's STEM Scholars. You're muted.
It was only a matter of time before I did that. I'm trying to think now. Offhand, I can't think of any, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I would email them directly, Simon STEM Scholars, because their team will get back to you usually within 24 hours if you email them. I'll put their email address in the chat so you can follow up with them, but they know every student in their program. I think this year they had this fall, their class was like 30 to 40 students. But it's a very close knit honors program. It's a wonderful thing for Stony Brook to be able to offer, but it is competitive. I will I will say that. We had a question that was pre-submitted about what you kind of talked about this a little bit, but what are some examples of kind of cool internships that students have done over the years that are really kind of stand out as pretty extraordinary opportunities?
Yeah, so just even this, I can think about this past year. I mentioned we had a student who was interested in broadcast, and she did an internship at NBC4, had a great, I asked her, how was that experience? They said it was awesome. So it was amazing, you know, to be in a news studio in New York City and learning from the broadcast meteorologist there. You know, that's the #1 market in the country for TV. That's kind of the pinnacle of being a broadcast meteorologist, right? And to have that internship opportunity, in part because of our you know our where we're located is awesome. I also had a student. There was an undergraduate. She's a senior now. She was a junior, and she did it was only 1 week. Some of them are longer, like 3 or 4 weeks, but she did a research experience for undergrad program in Norman, Oklahoma. And now, so I lived in Norman for 11 years. So you kind of met with her and told her, you know, what's Oklahoma going to be like, and so I was able to help. And so she went down there at the University of Oklahoma and did a 1 week thing. Came back and she said it was like life changing. And so, yeah, what I try to emphasize to students is where things are located, or if it seems scary, these are bad reasons not to do something. You know, I grew up in New England and went to school in upstate New York. And then I got a chance to go to the University of Oklahoma to do my master's and PhD. And the reason I wasn't going to go is because it was in Oklahoma. And I thought that's a bad way, you know, that's a bad reason not to do something. And so we try to put our students, we're hopeful they get opportunities to do something that's really exciting. And so, you know, she went to Oklahoma, she came back, she was like, wow, that was this. Now I think I want to do research. You know, maybe I'm interested in severe storms. And now she's doing severe storms research for me. So I also want to give the other end of you know, the flip side of the coin, which is I had, it's a few years ago now, but I had a student go do an internship, and she came back and I said, how was it? She said, I hated it. I'm sorry, it was a research, it was an REU, a research experience. And she's like, I just wasn't interested in it. She's like, I thought I would be. I did. And I had to emphasize to her, it might be frustrating, but that's also good information to have. Now you know what you don't like. And this is what I emphasize to the students, regardless of, you know, whether you end up loving it or hating it, it is progress in terms of ultimately determining what you want to do in your career. And so we're always pushing the students to go out there, find opportunities and take them, because, you know, you learn about yourself, what you do and what you don't like. And that's really that's the best part of the internships and research experience that you can get.
And average class size for atmospheric science classes, and are there labs? Are the labs connected to lectures? Are they large, small? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of the great things about our program is that it's really an ideal size. As I mentioned, each class has anywhere from 10 to 15 students in it. So, you know, so the sophomore, the juniors, the seniors, you know, it varies a little bit, but you know, about a dozen students each. So some of the classes are just with 1 year. So the juniors are taking a class. That class is going to have 10, 12, 14 students, something like that. Some of the elective classes, like I teach a class on weather radar that combines the juniors and the seniors. So there's more like 20 students. But so you can see like the numbers here, like they're awesome. Your instructor is going to know who you are. You're going to, you know, assuming that you put that effort in, you can get really one-on-one guidance. And so that's a great part of the major. So it's the size is really optimal, right? If it's too much smaller, then you know there's like nobody around. But you know, with having 10 to 15 students per class, you know, every day in where we are on campus, you know, I'm running into the majors every day. It's you know, there's the juniors and seniors combined. There's probably, you know, like 25, 30 students, and you get to know them really well, and they get to know each other really well. And I like that because that's what my program was when I graduated. I graduated with 12 other students. And out of the 13 of us, you know, I still keep in touch with, I would say, more than half of them. So you're kind of building these friendships for hopefully for life. So it's really an ideal size. In terms of labs, yeah. So for example, Next semester, I'll be teaching the sophomores, including Cole, a class called Atmospheric Structure and Analysis that'll have lecture. And then after each class, there's an hour, a little bit shorter, like 45-minute long lab, where they'll be analyzing real weather data, temperatures and winds and moisture, and making weather maps and looking at radar data and looking at satellite data and answering questions. And that'll be just a sophomore, so there'll probably be, I don't know, 10, 12 students. And it's actually my favorite class to teach. It's so much fun. Uh, it's I love the labs.
And Cole, kind of on the opposite side of that, your calculus, your physics, what size are those generally for those introductory courses? English, all those SBC core
Like how
courses.
hard or like
In terms of, well, sure, how hard are they, but also what size are most of those classes, or does it vary a lot?
so I'll say about the core courses first because SBUs are kind of dependent, but for core classes, you're generally gonna have like big lecture halls. They're not gonna be like your smaller like major classes as Michael was kind of talking about. You might not ever talk to the professor. I will say if you do have any struggles or you don't understand something, I would say talk to the professor. But generally, you're not getting that like one-on-one guidance you would get in like your major courses when it'll be smaller groups. For the SB Cs for Stony Brook's curriculum, it's dependent on the course. Most of them will be that sample size of like 15, 20 students. So you will be able to talk to more people. My personal experience, the SBCs are a really good opportunity to like put yourself out there, like take stuff that you necessarily might not want to do as a profession, but like would be maybe like an eye opener. For example, I took Japanese as my language and it was definitely tough, but it did give me people I was able to talk to, connect with, learn just a little bit more about, other cultures too.
That's a really great advice too. No matter where you go to college, try new things, because in high school you kind of have like what your high school offers, but in college, depending on where you go or the size and the course offerings, there's like a whole range of academic programs and classes you might never have an opportunity to explore. So it's definitely a great time to take advantage of the kind of general education courses, but also electives. So we have a question about lecture room sizes, and are there teaching assistants you can reach out to if you need help? And also like what other support is available in general for students that might be maybe struggling in a course or want extra to do kind of better in a course, or maybe they're not struggling, they just want to improve.
So I can start out and then hand it off to Cole for the classes that he's taken. On the atmospheric science side, so the class I'm teaching right now, Introduction to Atmospheric Science, that is a mix of the majors, and then there's also some students who take it for a science credit because it's an intro class. So students in engineering or so engineers, people in physics or environmental science also take the class. So that class actually has 60 students or 59 this semester. And so I have a TA as well that students can reach out to if they think that she'll help them connect with the material better. So on the atmospheric science side, when we do have classes that are larger, and there's not many of them, but when we do, they have TAs as well. But Cole, you can talk a little bit more about the kind of the big classes like calculus and physics, what the TA situation with those.
So yeah, so
Also talk a
for
little bit about what it takes to become a TA.
Oh, okay, yeah. So TAs, sorry, TAs are typically in atmospheric science, TAs are usually master's students. And so the university provides them a stipend to be a teaching assistant. Although I know in other disciplines, probably in physics or math as well, um, uh, undergraduate seniors who have done very well can also be TAs. That's possible in atmospheric science, but typically not the case. Sorry, go ahead, Cole.
It's fine. So I'll start with chemistry because that's the class that's had the most resources for help. There are TAs for chemistry. Uh, it's also kind of taught by at least this is like 131, like your kind of introduction chemistry course. There are kind of like the chem teachers who will answer questions. There's also a peer, there's always like peer help or peer studying. Just for Stony Brook itself, we also have Navigate, which has study groups or study buddies that you can kind of like contact for the courses you have. Uh, and going to like the undergrad or graduate TAs, there is a workshop class that goes with chemistry where you have both graduate and undergraduate TAs that help there as well. And that's kind of the same for a lot of the big lecture courses is you'll have multiple TAs, and then there'll be like peer and people who have taken the course already who can help. There's also specifically for physics and chemistry, there's drop-ins where you can drop in, maybe you don't have enough time to like stay the full time, but you can like get a little bit of studying in.
Yeah, so there's a ton of university resources. It's the Academic Success and Tutoring Center, that you can make appointments, or Stony Brook's a really great university, and so there's tons of resources that you have access to as a student. The key is always the student reaching out for help. Sometimes students, they for whatever reason they don't, but those resources are there for you to take advantage of. If there's something that is just not clicking, just not working for you, the university has excellent resources that all students should take advantage of if they need them.
Yes, I always say if you think about those resources as part of the tuition that you pay, you want to take advantage of everything you can at whatever college or university you go to. Do you have any last kind of final wishes and wisdom for our hopefully future Seawolves?
Yeah, I would thank you for being here tonight. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but hopefully you get a better idea of how our program is oriented, how it works, kind of getting some insight. Like I said, it's a great size, and it's a great community. And we'd love to have you be part of the program. And you can always reach out to me or to Cole. You can Google my name, Michael French, at Stony Brook, and let me know any questions that you have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, or even meet with you to talk about the program. That's kind of the undergraduate recruitment liaison for atmospheric science. So I'd be happy to help answer any of your questions.
Well, I just want to thank you, Michael and Cole, for your time today and sharing this information with us and answering so many questions. I hope everyone that joined us this evening has a wonderful rest of your senior year, if you are a senior, or junior year, or wherever you are in the college admission process. And we hope to see you next fall as Stony Brook University students. Wish you the best of luck, and thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.